Yes, we are going to discuss a very important topic, the human excretory system. In previous some sessions we talked about the human digestive system, we have talked about the heart, the cardiovascular system, but one of a very important component, the human excretory system, we will be talking about today. Yes. So as we can see here, this is a very simple diagram which is being portrayed before you. You can see the kidneys, right, both the right and the left kidney, and from the kidneys following the ureter, this pipe, the ureter, which comes into the urinary bladder. Yes, the urinary bladder is a place where urine, so what is the kidney doing? The kidney forms urine by the process of glomerular filtration, GFR, right, and this urine which is being formed by the kidney, comes through this ureter and finally comes to the urinary bladder where it is temporarily stored. Now, when enough urine has been stored in the urinary bladder, what happens? This distends the urinary bladder. There are detrusor muscles in the urinary bladder, in the muscular layer of urinary bladder, which contracts the urinary bladder, and finally the urine will come out through the urethra, right. So, we will talk about the excretory system, we will talk about the nephrons, which are the structural and functional unit of the kidney, all this in this session. Be tuned with me, and after the session I promise you that at least 15 to 20% of the conceptual part of this chapter will be very much clear in your mind. That will be my best efforts for today. I hope you had your breakfast and you're all energetic and all with charisma and energy. Okay, so let us start labeling this, right? Both of this is the kidney, right? Now you can see, now as we know, okay, when I'm talking about my body, this part, okay, the right side, this here will be the right kidney. Now, when I'm looking towards the board, this will become what? This will become the left kidney, because I'm facing towards the board, right? And this is the right kidney. Got it? So we see that the right kidney is a little lower. Can you see this? The right kidney is a little lower in position than the left kidney. And why it is so? Because of the presence of lungs on the right side, large lungs on the right side. So I'll write this here. The right kidney is little lower in position than the left kidney because of presence of large lung lobe, okay, because of the presence of large lung lobe on right side, and that is why this kidney is slightly low in position, and this is slightly upper in position. Yes, the right kidney is little lower in position than the left kidney because of the presence of large lung lobe on the right side. Absolutely. Now we see that from the kidneys arises these two tubes, and these two tubes can be called as ureters. Okay? These two tubes are called as ureters, and what are these ureters doing? the ureters are draining the urine which is formed in the kidney. Now finally the ureter is draining the urine from the kidney, and it comes into the urinary bladder where it is temporarily stored. Right. Urinary bladder. Okay, and we see, this is the urethra. Right. So over here we understand, yes, the basic function of kidney is formation of urine. This kidney which is formed in urine is drained by these two pipes, ureters, and temporarily stored in the urinary bladder, and after it has, been accumulated in the urinary bladder to a certain volume, then it is expelled out of the urethra. In males, this urethra is same for the sperm as well as the urine, and hence it is called as the urinogenital aperture in males. However, the opening in females for both the sperm as well as the urine is different, that you should know. This is about the the external genitalia, when we will do this in the reproductive system chapter. Right. Let us move a little ahead. So now we are going into a little more detail of the kidney and its structure, and we will see some other parts of the kidney. Okay, so what you see here, this is the blue. This is a vein. Why? Because the blood is blue. This is shown in blue. The arteries will be shown in yellow. This is the normal, how they color it. So this part, this blue one, is the inferior vena cava. We all know what the inferior vena cava is, right? It drains the blood, the deoxygenated blood, from the lower parts of the body back to the right atrium, right? Now what is this? This is the aorta. We know what is aorta. The aorta comes out from the left ventricle and gives oxygenated blood to all the organs of the body, right? What else? As I told you, this is the ureter. Right? Now, what do we see? We'll label the main parts. This is the kidney. This is the kidney, right? Then we see what is this. This is the renal vein. Renal vein, right? Then what do we see this? This part. This is the renal artery. Renal artery. Right? So this is the kidney, the renal artery, the renal vein which is further dividing. Now this, what is this? The suprarenal or the adrenal gland. Suprarenal or adrenal gland. Right? What is this now? This is the rectum, the cut part of the rectum. This is what? This is the uterus. We are talking about the female over here, and this is the urinary bladder. Urinary bladder. Right? The urethra. Have we mentioned every important structure over here? Yes, these are the hepatic veins. If you want to write, you can write this. I mean, since not very important, but yes, this will tell us the relationship. And this is the cut esophagus. See, why you might think, that these hepatic veins, esophagus, why we are labeling this, or why, this is not important because we are talking about kidney. But this is general picturization, how you should keep in mind. Because sometimes if you know their position, if you know their relation to each other, their structure, then many of the questions get answered just like that. That is why the relative position, their relative arrangement, and how they are based with each other, that is what I told you. See, this, right? That is the right kidney is little lower than this. Why? Because the right liver lobe is larger. So had you known this, or had you known the entire position, you would have known. Had you known the structure of lung and its position, you would have known beforehand only that why this is slightly lower in position. So that is why the relative information is very important. We'll come back to this diagram again. So these are the two kidneys, and these two kidneys are drained by the ureters pipe-like, which come and join the urinary bladder. This urinary bladder flows into the urethra, and this urethra will be the urethra and the genital aperture will be different in case of females. Okay, this is the rectum, this is the uterus, okay, which we are talking about in females, and the kidney is being provided or supplied by the renal artery. So you can see this renal artery. Okay, and this renal artery is coming out from where? This renal artery is coming out from the aorta. We know that aorta, which comes out from the left ventricle, gives oxygenated blood to all the parts of the heart, all the parts of the body. And so also this aorta will give one of its branches, the renal artery branch, to the kidney, and hence from this aorta we see a branch over here is coming out and supplying the kidney with the oxygenated blood. Now the kidney uses this blood, okay, gives all its waste, all its excretes all its waste back into the blood. We all know that blood is a transporter, so blood will take all the excretory material, all the waste material through the hepatic veins. So these are the hepatic veins, the renal vein. Hepatic vein is for the lung. So yes, the hepatic vein and all those things we are talking about, let's forget this now. So the renal artery supplies blood to the kidney. Now renal vein will collect the deoxygenated blood, these are the branches of the renal vein, the blue, and this renal vein will collect the deoxygenated blood and pour it into the inferior vena cava. Now since the kidney is in the lower portion below the diaphragm, so the inferior vena cava will collect all the deoxygenated blood from the kidney and pour it back into the right atrium, of the heart, and this is why we see that this renal vein is going to the inferior vena cava. Here we see the hepatic veins again, that is, since we got this section, that's why. So this is the whole thing about how, what is draining the kidney and what is its blood, the arterial and the venous supply and the relationship of each other. We move on to the next diagram. Right. This is the internal structure of the kidney, a little more important. Right. So before I start with this, excretion can be of three types. A monotelic, or better a monotelism, ureotelism, and uricotelism. Right? Excretion is mainly of three types: a monotelism, ureotelism, uricotelism. A monotelism is where ammonia is excreted. Now, ammonia is highly soluble in water. It is highly soluble. Ammonia is one of the most dangerous waste products. You cannot afford to let ammonia accumulate in your body. Ammonia is highly soluble in water. So, what will happen if the excretory product is given out in the form of ammonia? This will take or require a large amount of water to dissolve, and hence the body should have a lot of water. But we cannot afford to take in so much water. So, this type of homonotelism is seen in aquatic animals, bony fishes, okay, amphibians and all that, mainly aquatic, that you should keep in mind. Ureotelism. Urea is insoluble in water. Now, urea is what about? Urea is about 1 lakh times less toxic than ammonia. So, it can be stored in the body for a little longer time than ammonia because it is 1 lakh times less toxic. It is insoluble in water, and hence most of the land animals adapted this type of excretion. Okay, most of the land animals, because water will not be required for the excretion here, because we will get dehydrated. If we have ammonotelism, we will get dehydrated. All the water of the body will be, used up to give ammonia outside. Ureotelism, urea is excreted out. So, urea is excreted. That means what? The ammonia which is there in the body has to be converted to urea, and that is done by the ornithine cycle or the Krebs-Hanslitt cycle or the urea cycle. That is how the ammonia is, or the nitrogen containing compound are converted to urea and excreted out in this way. Now, we will talk about the uricotelism, where uric acid is given out. Again, uric acid is absolutely insoluble in water. And what? Yes, the bird droppings which fall on you, guano they call it, the bird, the reptiles, the lizards and all, they walk on the floor, and they, you can see the droppings of those reptiles. Do not touch it, do not taste it. They are not very good products, they are the excretory material. And insects. Yes, uric acid. What do we have? Yes, we have the ureotelism in our body. We excrete in the form of urea. Right. Let us come back to this diagram once again. So, what do we see here? This is the internal structure of the kidney we are talking about. Yes, and we all know that the kidney is divided into 2 sections. Absolutely, yes, this is over here is the kidney. It is divided into 2 sections. Here is the kidney. Where is the kidney? Kidney has an outer cortex and inner medulla. You need to enjoy your subject at the time of studying. That will help you retain things for a longer time. Do not take it very seriously. Keep on enjoying. These are your things, your organs, your body parts. Study this with entho and you will remember it all throughout your life. It doesn't mean, you need this only for your entrance. You should know about these things, right? So, this is the outer cortex. Okay? This is the outer cortex. Where is the medulla? Here is the medulla, right? This is the renal medulla, the inner portion. So, as I told you, the kidney is divided into the outer cortex and the inner medulla. So, here is the outer renal cortex and here is the renal medulla, right? Now, we see that in the medullary portion, we see something called as the renal pyramids. Renal pyramid. Now, these renal pyramid have the broad structure towards the cortex region and the narrow structure here. These narrow structures are called as the renal papilla. So the narrow ending of the renal pyramids towards the medullary end is called as the renal papilla. Okay, that is how you say the renal papilla. Okay, the renal papilla. Yes. So this is the renal papilla. Okay, jokes apart, let's come back. What are these? Now these renal papilla, see basically you know all these, this is a collection of uriniferous tubules which are the basic functional and structural unit of the kidney. So we are trying to get the kidney main over here. Here the pelvis region, you see the ureter, this is waiting to take the kidney. The urine should be formed. So we are trying to form the urine and drain the urine here. So that is why we see that these renal pyramids are there, then the papilla are there, then these are the minor calyces. These, that is this region, yes. These are the minor calyces. And this region we can say, which region? Yes, this region is the major calyx. Okay, have I mentioned the renal papilla? Renal pyramids have I mentioned? Yes, this is the renal pyramid and the renal papilla. Right, same as the renal papilla, this one also, renal papilla, this one also, same. Okay, so all these, this one, this one, this one, over here, not this one, okay, this one, I cannot see, okay, this part, this one, this one, this one, these are the renal papilla. Now, the cortex projects into the medulla in between the renal pyramids, and these are called as the renal columns of Bertini. The renal columns of Bertini. Okay, this is the pelvic region, the pelvis of the kidney, the pelvis of the kidney, right? And this pelvis, you know, is placed where, you know, it is placed at the notch or the hilum. What is the hilum of the kidney? The hilum of the kidney is that portion of the kidney, you know, which is the concavity part where all the vessels, the renal artery, the renal vein will come or enter the kidney. Now this is what the renal vein, blue in color and draining the deoxygenated blood. This is renal artery. Okay, renal artery, very important. All the oxygenated blood. Okay, the oxygenated blood which has pure oxygen, will come into the kidney through this renal artery. So all these are coming out in this concavity portion which is called as the hilum part. So hilum is that concavity portion or the notch, okay, like this. So this is the hilum part. Now this broad part is the pelvic region or the pelvis we call as. Any more things to define? Okay, right. So once again, yes, this is the renal capsule. This is the renal capsule. We will see that the entire kidney is covered by 3 layers. The renal capsule, the adipose capsule and the renal fascia. Yes. 3 layers, you cannot forget this, 1, 2, 3. Renal capsule, the adipose capsule and the renal fascia. Right, once again, the outermost is the renal capsule, then we have the renal cortex, the renal pyramid. In the renal medulla, these are the pyramids. Now these pyramids, this is the broader portion, the narrower portion called the renal papilla. Then we see in between the renal cortex projects into the renal medulla and that is called the renal columns of Bertini. Then we see that yes, this is the wider portion which is called the renal pelvis. This is the renal vein, the renal artery, and here comes the ureter. Yes. Let us go ahead and talk about some things more. Yes, it's the same thing once again. Okay, a little more detailed. I talked about again the renal cortex over here. Okay, I'll not label this. This is the renal cortex. Now this is again the renal medulla. Right, the renal medulla. This is the outer cortex, the renal medulla. and this is what again the renal pyramid, right? Now this is the connection to the minor calyces, right? This is the minor calyx, this is the major calyx. Then this is the renal column of Bertini, that is projection of the renal cortex into the renal medulla, and we see yes, this is the hilum part, the concavity part where all this is entering, the ureter, the renal artery, the renal vein, right? This is the pelvic region, the renal pelvis. Now this is the renal sinus, and this is the adipose tissue, the renal adipose tissue connecting with the renal sinus. This is the renal capsule once again. So it's the same structure, a little, not even elaboration, a little different form of it. So things are clear to you. We move on. Yes, this is the structure of a nephron. So a nephron or a uriniferous tubule is the structural and functional unit of the kidney. It forms the structure and does the function of the kidney. Okay. So we see that the kidney diagram which I showed you consists of millions of so many uriniferous tubules. Yes. And this is the structure of one of those uriniferous tubule which we will do in detail. Okay, let us talk about, this is looking like a cup. So we will call it the Bowman's capsule. The Bowman's capsule, right? And this is a collection of capillaries called the glomerular capillaries. So these glomerular capillaries, now once again, what is happening? See, from the renal artery, this is the renal artery. What is the renal artery doing? The renal artery is carrying the oxygenated blood from the heart to the kidney. Once the renal artery is coming, it's coming, and here what happens? This is the afferent arteriole. That artery divides into a number, it divides into a number of arterioles. So this is what? This is the afferent arteriole, and this is the efferent arteriole, E for exit, and efferent arteriole. So the artery which is coming, the renal artery that is dividing, we all know arteries divide into arterioles, that into capillaries, capillaries unite to form venules, venules unite to form vein, and that vein is finally draining the organ. So the renal artery which is coming, that divides into arterioles. So this is the afferent arteriole. Over here, it forms a collection of capillaries, and that is called as the glomerular capillaries. That capillary is exiting, and that is called as the efferent arteriole. What we will see that, we'll talk later when we are talking about the ultrafiltration of urine, that the diameter of this efferent is lesser than the diameter of this. So as a result, what happens? The pressure inside increases because within the arteriole is the blood flowing. Many more things, we'll come back later. Now we see, okay, this is the Bowman's capsule, this is the glomerular capillaries, this together forms the Malpighian capsule. Malpighian capsule. Right. Now this part, the initial part, this is called as the proximal convoluted tubule. Proximal convoluted tubule. Okay. Then this is the loop of Henle. The loop of Henle. It is partially into the cortex and partially into the medulla region. So we can see that this is a thick descending loop of Henle. Descending loop of Henle. And this is the thin descending loop of Henle, right? This is the thin ascending limb. Okay, limb it should be. and this is the thick ascending limb. Right. So what we see here, and yes, so this is the loop of Henle, and this is the distal convoluted tubule. Distal convoluted tubule. Okay, and this is the collecting duct. Collecting duct. Right. So this is the structure of a nephron. The structure of a nephron. The cup-like structure called the Bowman's capsule, the glomerular capillaries together called the Malpighian capsule. Then we see this is the proximal convoluted tubule, then continuing into the loop of Henle. This is the descending limb going down, descending, the thick limb, the thick limb of the descending limb, the thin limb of the descending limb, then ascending, the thin ascending limb, the thick ascending limb, coming into the distal convoluted tubule, coming into the collecting duct, and then finally this will go to the pelvis region, to the pelvis of the kidney. I hope you can see this over here, to the pelvis, right. This is how the whole thing is there. And okay, so the cortex, is somewhere here till here. So this is the cortex part and this is the medulla part. Now again, based on that, there are two types of nephrons. One is the cortical nephron. Those nephrons which are entirely in the cortex region are the cortical nephron, and those which extend into the medulla are called as the juxtamedullary nephrons. Juxtamedullary nephrons, right. We will see the other, aspects of this. Yes, absolutely. This is the structure we are again going to do. Now, as I told you, this is the renal artery. Okay, the renal artery is going further, and you see it is dividing into renal arteriole, and we see that this is the afferent arteriole which goes loops, and this loop is called the glomerular capillaries. Why? Because the renal arteriole has branched now into glomerular capillaries. This is the efferent arteriole. Now this is the peritubular capillaries, peritubular network. Peritubular network of capillaries. Okay, this is coming down. Okay, so this is the peritubular network. Now we come to this, the structure of a nephron. This is the Bowman's capsule, and together called the Malpighian capsule, the proximal convoluted tubule. Then comes the loop of Henle, the thick descending limb, the thin ascending limb, the thin descending limb, then the ascending limb, the thin ascending limb, the thick ascending limb. Then there is the distal convoluted tubule, and further we see that yes, this is the collecting duct and the collecting tubule are here, and this is going to the pelvis region. So friends, with this, we have almost come to the end of this discussion, right? I explain you the main structure of the kidney, the different parts of the nephron, what is the position of kidney. There are many more things associated with the formation of urine, and this is a very interesting topic which cannot be neglected at any cost. All this are there in my chapter which we have done in this. Any doubts, any concepts, clearation, you can always ask me to study, because we are always there to help you, right? Concentrate on your work, keep moving ahead, and keep yourself motivated, because motivation is what which will take you further in life. That's it. You might be a mediocre, but if you have that motivation, that is the extra edge which will take you ahead. The time we meet again, friends, a very goodbye and a very nice time for Misostudy. Thank you.